Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of our group chunk accounts. My name is Burthorpe 1, and this is Burthorpe 2. We're a group chunk account that takes the standard chunk rules, but gives them a slight twist for the advantage of having friends. So, let's take a moment to unwind what happened last episode. First off, got ourselves some prayer gear and rolled a few chunks, and then ended up with B2 landing on the Warriors Guild and myself, Taverly. Now, let's talk about B2 for a moment, as they drew the short end of the stick for things to do. They are required to get a Dragon Defender for their best in slot offhand, and once they get inside the Warriors Guild, they can buy a big upgrade from the shop inside, the Adamant Mace. However, the big word here is once, as since they rolled this chunk, they're stuck doing Servants or Penda in order to train their stats to enter the Warrior Guilds, requiring a huge leap all the way up to 65 attack and 65 strength, to achieve the collective 130 levels between attack and strength, at around 8 to 10k XP an hour if playing efficiently. So it's a bit of a drag, unfortunately. But anyways, when B2 gets inside, they can instantly buy that weapon upgrade of Adamant Mace and start collecting Warriors Guild tokens, which is where another roadblock will occur. Now, I'm sure some observant people will have noticed something about our gear. We don't have any Mithril plate legs. So how is B2 going to get Warrior Guild token, as we don't have any full complete armor set yet? The answer? Minigames. Simple minigames that Jagex added along the traditional method that everyone knows, the animation room, which most, if not everyone, is familiar with, and then the 4 other rooms all having players complete various obstacles or goals that have to be complete in order to obtain a small amount of tokens. The first one being the dummy room, where there are 7 different dummies of various colors, as seen here, each related to a combat style needed to be hit in order to gain 2 Warrior Guild tokens and 15 attack experience on each success. It's recommended to use something like a longsword of sorts, as it can cover at least 6 of the 7 colors, and then you can unequip the longsword to achieve the crush style, giving you the coverage over all 7 styles. This is a lot to do, and a lot more focus and energy than probably worth doing, so we'll move on to the next one. The shot put room, requiring at least 50 strength to enter the room because it's blocked behind some doors, which most people will have when entering the Warriors Guild anyways, needing the collective 130 levels. In this room, the player will grab one of 3 shot puts, each one with a different throwing style: the standing throw, the step and throw, and the spin and throw. But a big problem that this method runs into for B2 is each throw costs run energy, so once he depletes all of his run energy, he'll have to wait close to 20 minutes for his run energy to gain back to full. Overall, not a repeatable source of tokens long term. Let's go on to the next minigame. Jimmy's Challenge. This is another energy-based minigame like the last. Players will remove their helmet, having no weapons or gloves equipped as they balance a barrel on top of their head, then adding another barrel, stacking up to at least 5. Like the last minigame mentioned, this isn't a very good long-term method of getting tokens, so let's just move on to the last method, and the method B2 will primarily be using. The Catapult Room. This is a bit of an easier minigame. Players are given a 2-handed shield, which, of course, can only be used during the minigame itself, and the objective of this minigame is to successfully block incoming projectiles being fired, awarding 10 defense experience and 1 token, with the catapult firing once every 8 ticks, or 4.8 seconds. This allows a total of 750 tokens an hour and 7.5k defense experience an hour as well. Now this method sounds the slowest, and that may be right. However, it does seem to be the easiest to sustain over a long time, as B2 might have to grind out 1 to 2,000 tokens before he's able to hit that Dragon Defender drop rate. But remember, we gotta rewind a bit. B2 still has to get the stat requirements before even being able to enter the Warriors Guild, which is a grind in of itself. Although, there is a slight adjustment that can be made. Before, I sort of lied about the training methods being the Servant and Penda for B2, because as of last episode, B2 and I unlocked Druid Circle, which actually opens another training method being the Druids themselves. Just because their mage attacks are so accurate, once B2 gets 37 prayer and gains protect from magic overhead, and with the altar being right next to the Druids, he can train by killing them for slightly boosted XP rates. And I do mean slightly, going from about 8 to 10k on Servants to maybe 10 to 12k an hour on Druids. So it's a lot more effort for a slightly different reward. For now, we'll leave B2 to his fun grinds, and we'll check back in with him in a while, or whenever something notable comes up. Now let's head south. Here comes Taverly, and oh man, is this a big one. Taverly is home to many different monsters, and with that comes a lot of new items for us to achieve in our chunks, as well as different training methods that have been unlocked. So let's talk tasks for a bit. As Taverly Dungeon is home to many different monsters, ranging from skeletons and bats, all the way up to black dragons and black demons. Some formidable foes for some main accounts, or for us it's going to be, well, even more challenging. But let's break this Taverly Dungeon into stages, the first being training, as I'm still quite early on my account and my stats aren't high enough to take on demons or dragons yet, so we'll have to put in some long grinding hours at first. Then the second stage. Overly protected. As we're grinding, I'll bury every bone I get to slowly work my way towards 43 prayer, where this stage will be unlocked, allowing me to test the waters with my new stats and protection prayers, allowing me to void 100% of incoming damage from melee, range, and mage attacks, which will be very beneficial against the much stronger enemies further into the dungeon. Then the final stage, which is where I'll be spending most of my time in this chunk, Belly of the Beast, as this is the home stretch and the final part of what this chunk has to offer, yet also being gated behind some of the strongest enemies in the dungeon. We're going to have to get a bit creative on how we tackle this problem. So with the 3 stages of Taverly laid out, let's get to the nitty gritty and talk about what we actually have to do here. So let's step outside of this dark dungeon and get some sunlight, which I'm sure many of us are severely lacking. Now isn't that nice? Now I'm going to edge you guys on a little bit longer of what's required, because first I'd like to take some time and talk about the discoveries and what Taverly gave us immediately upon unlocking. First off, as was shown last episode, a sword shop. However, only selling 2-handed swords and only up to adamant, but still our best in slot flinching weapon, so easy upgrade, only costing 6.4k GP. Along with the herb shop and the crystal chest, so if we happen to complete a tooth half and a loop half, we have access to Dragonstone. However, we can't do anything with those yet, even if we did have a completed crystal key, but still nice to have. And of course, a tree patch, where we bought the rake for 15 GP, and we can start our Verf content. Rake content. I get those mixed up sometimes. Working slowly towards passive farming goals. Those are the notable things, but there are some small things. They just don't help immediately, such as the POH portal. Useful to have for sure, but with construction being locked behind a saw, it'll be a while before anything can really happen with that. But wait, there's more. That's not all Taverly has to offer, with it having some fun item spawns around. The biggest one for us right now being a short bow located upstairs in the house west of the tree patch. With this, we actually have range unlocked, which feels great as it opens the door for some upgrades that we weren't originally available to us in our first chunk. But we'll get to that in a second. Within Taverly, we now have our best food source available. And just like cabbages, they're free, and also just like cabbages, tedious to collect. Having 3 spawns of swamp toads on the west side of the lake, which once picked, you can ruthlessly pull apart their legs and obtain frog legs. And might I suggest a great pairing of a random left out tea with 2 cups of tea that spawn in the middle of Taverly and on the bench nearby the dungeon entrance. Now, these aren't amazing food, but they do heal 3 times the amount of cabbages. So those who graduated with a PhD in astrophysics can probably do the math in their head, but all of us who are just average Joes, or let's be honest, less than average Larrys, I'll help you with the math. Cabbages heal for 1. Frog legs heal for 3 times that amount. So the magic number is 3! Exactly! All jokes aside, the new food is good, but nothing too good, as I can take a full inventory down into the dungeon to take on hill giants, since they're pretty strong against me this early, so food is going to be a must. In the interest of keeping things on track, let's head back to Burthorpe to talk about some new things that we have access to before I start going through all the stages that Taverly Dungeon has to offer. Conveniently enough, once we make our way back to Burthorpe, we have some new items that are needed to be achieved with range being unlocked. Archers, and these guys give us some new gear in the form of studded chaps once we get 20 range, and then green d'hide chaps once we get 40 range, and the best bow, a maple short bow at a 1 in 128, our new best in slot range bow. But right now we don't have much access to easy arrows besides the occasional drops from some monsters, but no shops to just outright buy them, so we'll have enough arrows to get us at least 40 range in our chunks, which, while we're on the topic of gear, let's go over our best in slot and what we're having to kill in order to obtain them. It's a bit of a list, so I'm going to show you our best in slot on screen now, while I quickly explain everything, as I don't want to spend 5 minutes going over each individual slot. But here it is, our melee best in slot. The rune full helm, the rune chain body, the rune long sword, the adamant square for me, and yet B2 will have the Dragon Defender since he's unlocked the Warriors Guild, Mithril Plate Legs, and of course, leather boots and leather gloves. For Mage, not much has changed since using the Iron Dagger for its +1 Mage bonus, but changed our Mage gear from now being Zammy Robes as opposed to the Druid's Robes, and of course, leather boots and leather gloves. Range has quite a few upgrades in these chunks actually. A Rune Med Helm, Green D'hide Chaps, and for weapon, our best bow is the Maple Shortbow with steel arrows, and if we're using a one-hand, it'll be the Rune Knives and Adamant Square Shield. But as the Rune Knives aren't very easy to achieve, it'd probably make more sense for us to use Black Knives since we'll have a lot more of them in abundance. And of course, to top it off, the leather boots and leather gloves. A classic look. Currently, there isn't any jewelry that we have access to with us not having any molds or furnace. So, jewelry is something that we won't really have unlocked until about 17 Hunter. And then a whole new world opens up. But wait! Why 17 Hunter, you may ask? Well, for those who may not be familiar with chunk accounts and why most of us lamp 17 Hunter first, Gielinor is loaded with crop circles all over the place. And with these, we have access to Puro Puro, which has baby Implings at 17 Hunter, our first primary source of training Hunter. But let's forget about that for now. We'll save that monster of a task until it happens, though best not to worry about what looms beyond these colorful lights. Pushing that aside, let's forget about those lights and get into the depths of Taverly and what it has to offer in Stage 1, Training. As the title suggests, this is all about getting stronger on different monsters at first. I tried going straight for Hill Giants thinking that they'd be the easiest to kill for XP, but forgetting all about Chaos Druids, which is where I eventually spent most of my time training, as they're much easier, closer to the entrance, and give us much better loot in the form of herbs. I tried killing Hill Giants at first, but didn't end up enjoying killing them, because gathering food in their poor loot table wasn't really worth sticking around for. So I figured I should kill Chaos Druids instead. With a lower max hit in HP and a much better loot table, I figured they'd be much more worth killing long term to train on. But here I was, thinking that that'd be easier. But my word, was I wrong. Not because they're stronger or because of any real human reason. They were worse because of the absurd amount of bots that run rampant, killing Chaos Druids. And they're so clearly bots, not only by their names, but by their gear. They have about 3 main styles, but one thing is consistent. Full adamant armor, and some color cape like a team cape or just one of the ones you can buy from the shop in Canifis. For weapons, they'll have either a dragon sword or the Saradomin sword, and then their leader, or what I like to believe is their leader, will be wearing full Tazar gear. There are a few variations of gear that the bots might wear as a way to throw you off guard with thinking that they're not bots, but it's clear because you'll hop worlds and just happen to see another person in the exact same gear, rocking the same color cape and everything. Most times when I logged in to try to grind up a bit, I find I'll have to hop at least 10 plus times in order to find a vacant world. And sometimes I've hopped over 50 plus worlds, all riddled with bots, which was pretty frustrating. But powering through, I just kept on going as much as I could. I wasn't going to let the bot infestation run over the adventures of Burthorpe 1 and Burthorpe 2's story. So, that wraps up what's in store for Stage 1 of training. I primarily used those 2 sources as everything else was too strong to tackle right away, which leads us to Stage 2, Overly Protected. This stage starts once I obtain all overheads, requiring 43 prayer to obtain all 3 of them, as we're all familiar. With that, it opens the door to being able to kill stronger monsters while prey flicking, and not having to take any damage as we don't have any good food yet. This new territory has access to Chaos Dwarves and the Black Knights. Both of these don't give rewards, but do give minor items still required for our chunks. Then the Black Knights, which give an odd item, the Pot of Flour, which by itself is an odd item to hold in the back of their pocket. But it's a chunk task for me to have to bake a loaf of bread, so that'll be another item that will need to be achieved. However, we only need 1, since to cook bread, you are only allowed to do it on a range, and the only range that is accessible is inside Taverly Dungeon itself. So B2 isn't required to complete that task. Yet. Stage 2 is pretty straightforward. Most of our time will be spent in Stages 1 and 3, which brings us to full circle, back to Stage 3, Belly of the Beast. Now, this is a hurdle. Here lies 3 things that has to be done. Killing the Zamorak monks to obtain the Zamorak top and bottoms at a 1 in 20 from the level 45 monks. Black Demons for their Rune Chainbody at a 1 in 128, and the hardest is the Black Dragon for their Rune Longsword, our new best in slot at a 1 in 128. Even though it's a 5-tick weapon, it's still better than our previous BIS weapon, the Adamant Mace, because of its additional 26 melee strength and overall higher accuracy bonuses. This last stage will take the longest, as black demons alone will take me about 5 minutes to kill while constantly prey flicking the entire time, even with using ultimate strength and incredible reflexes. So to go on rate of 256 in total black demons, it's 1,280 minutes, or 21.3 hours of prey flicking. So keeping our fingers crossed that we can get lucky and not have to kill that many, or even more if we go dry. However, compared to black demons, the strongest foe we have yet to face, the Black Dragon, is even worse, with their drop rate being a 1 in 128 for their rune longsword as well. However, their defenses being much higher than that of black demons, as the demons don't even have defenses. Our only resort is to flinch them with our adamant two-hand that we picked up from the sword shop above, which, after we did some calculations, accounting for DPS output of our stats, gear, prayers, possible potions, and even accounting for the HP regen of the monsters themselves, we came to the number of about 20 minutes per kill of a black dragon. With such a long kill time, their defenses, and our limited supplies, we knew melee was our only option. Range was out, as our gear isn't going to be strong enough to take them on, let alone without any kind of quiver, so running under the dragons to pick up arrows mid-kill could end poorly. So we knew flinching was our only option. But at 20 minutes a kill, with flinching this grind, it was going to take about 5,120 minutes, or just over 85 hours to complete. This grind alone basically doubles our total chunk time, so it has the biggest possibility of being either our biggest time save, or our biggest time sink. Now, it's not 100% for all of these numbers, as this is assuming I'll be doing all of this alone. But I have some help in the form of B2. Once they complete their Warriors Guild and obtain their best gear available to them, they are allowed to roll. At the start of our accounts, we decided an overall rule is that we'd never have to wait for another player to get an item or achieve something before they can roll. Basically, B2 doesn't have to wait for me to obtain my rune longsword before rolling. If they complete all the tasks they have available in their current chunks, they can roll, which hopefully will land them in Taverly with me, basically cutting the time needed for dragons more than in half. As with his Dragon Defender, he will be way more accurate with each kill than I would with just an Addy 2H. Whew. This has been a lot. Let's take a moment and relax and enjoy the piece with some good rate content. Like I stated at the end of last episode, I wanted to separate all this into its own video to help isolate what is needed to be done in this chunk. But I won't leave it at just that. I'll give a little sneak peek into the grind so far. Right after rolling Taverly, and after talking with B2, we realized that I had decent odds to finish an easy clue, which, if we were able to land a Staff of Air as a reward, being a 1 in 36, it would be a massive improvement for our mage training, which really was the only item we were hoping for. But with me being able to complete only 12 of 160 easy clue steps, and them being a 1 in 128 from Penda, it wouldn't really be worth grinding out Penda forever, but early on the account, I got an easy clue and with a step that I could actually complete. So I figured I'd grind out one easy clue just to test our luck. Ooh, okay. So now we gotta juggle these, so someone's get it placed. And this one's gonna be in the drawer that's just up here. So we can get anywhere between 2 and 4 steps, as everyone knows. Let's see if, get lucky. Oh, 2-step. So I got a 2-step, which now means that actually, I think it's this one. No, this one's the dud, which means now I have an extra clue now. Let's open this up, see what you get. All right. First clue scroll on the Burthorpe Group Iron Man. Or abso-fucking-lutely nothing. So yeah, as you saw, unfortunately, not only did we not get a Staff of Air like we wanted, but we also only got a Willow Long and 7 Law Runes, which isn't anything even new to our chunk, as the archers in Burthorpe also drop Willow Longbows. I mean, it was fun to have that goal and to be able to kind of check that off as a personal achievement, but really wish we could have gotten anything special, like a fun, unique cosmetic or, something. But maybe next time. I'm gonna end it off here, as there was a lot of information we went over as to future grinds on the account. In next episode, we'll get into the grinds themselves. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Would really appreciate a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and wish to see more. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about our accounts so far or anything I may not have covered in the video. Have a great rest of your day. Deuces.